short time frame?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay. Hello, I'd like to welcome you to the SBA's webinar series. My name is Jo Eckert, and I am the branch manager for the Iowa District Office located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Along with me, I have a few other of our staff members. Our fearless leader is Jane Armstrong. The district director is on. The deputy district director, Donnell Connolly, and also Samantha Byers-Kitch, who is a program support assistant that helps out here in the Cedar Rapids office. So welcome to Planning Like an Entrepreneur and getting your team on the same page. Our presenter is Jade Handy, and I'd like to introduce Jade. He has been spending his past 30 plus years as a serial entrepreneur, salesperson, and business community connector. Since 2014, he's been a startup business educator and coach. Jade is a native of rural Iowa and lives in Des Moines. In addition to beginning at a young age, starting several businesses, spanning multiple industries, he was the program manager of the West Des Moines Business Incubator. Jade has led over 300 events helping people build their businesses and sales. Along the way, he's helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get going and get growing. His latest startup project is again focused on rural Iowa, bringing early stage business incubation services to rural Iowa business communities. We're excited to have Jade leading the entrepreneurial series of presentations over the next couple of months. Please put your questions that you have in the chat. If you would like a copy of this presentation, I have my email in the chat. You can send me an email and I will get that to you. But Jade, welcome. And I'm going to go off camera so we can focus on you.
Well, hello. Thank you, Jane Armstrong and the Iowa District Office staff for hosting me for this presentation today. And thank you for the kind introduction, Jo Eckert. Just a quick reminder to put your questions in the chat and we'll address them at the end today. Thank you. Welcome to Planning Like an Entrepreneur and Getting Your Team on the Same Page. Today, I'm presenting a widely used non-proprietary system for understanding, designing, refining, and reinventing business models that is helpful when starting a venture or engaging team members in taking on new opportunities and challenges. Starting a venture is self-explanatory. You don't have a business, but you have a plan to start a business. For existing businesses, here are some examples of new opportunities that necessitate a plan of some sort that could easily benefit from the strategies we'll be revealing. Rolling out a new product, expanding into a new market or customer segment, launching into internet marketing or e-commerce for the first time, taking on a strategic partner or strategic partnership acquisition, adjusting for pandemic-related restrictions. Would a plan have helped? How about this whopper? Switching from an outside sales force to marketing and inbound sales. Also, consider large IT initiatives such as build the software in-house versus outsourcing the development or buying it. These projects can greatly impact budgets, leadership, and resources that can invite disagreement interdepartmentally, all of which necessitate understanding, designing, refining, and reinventing business models, whether you have a system for running scenarios or not. Why the need for entrepreneurial planning system? Because entrepreneurial planning systems stages do not follow the same hierarchical structure as other types of plans. Entrepreneurial ideas are often generated throughout the company and tend to move up and down the management levels as the ideas are refined, especially in more nimble organizations and small, albeit empowered departments in larger corporations. Startups, since led by the founder who built the organization to where it is smaller and vastly easier to see how a strategic initiative might affect their organization. The same startup is also less likely to have the executive level or intense strategy planning education and experience required to understand all facets of major fundamental changes to the organization's business model. Since we'll be talking about planning that affects an organization's business model, I should explain that every functioning organization, since the very first business in all of human history, has a business model, whether they realize it or not, whether they think of their organization that way, and whether or not they organize their thinking, strategy, and decision making with the different components of a business model in mind. We'll get into the details of a business model in a moment. When I say getting your team on the same page, as the title of this presentation sets forth, I mean all the team players, W-2 and 1099 workers, friends and family who play a part or are major supporters and influencers and oftentimes control the purse strings, banking relationships that have a need to understand your business and steer decisions because of the influence of funding on decisions, suppliers, vendors, value-added resellers who play an important role in delivering on promises made to customers. Investors, for obvious reasons. Many early stage entrepreneurs aren't aware of the embedded nature of investors who usually want to know everything. Consultants, coaches, mentors, and other informal influencers. Other support networks and key partners who need to know the operational design just as well as the financial workings of an organization. At this point, we have set the stage for entrepreneurial planning, and we have identified who is involved in these planning projects. And we have talked about the different types of planning, starting a new venture, rolling out a new product, expanding into a new market. Okay, so now, what are some of the challenges with planning when so many parties are involved? It would be highly unusual for money to be spread around an organization in a shotgun approach, except for a recent scenario I was made aware of where two partners couldn't agree on growth strategy, rather whose growth strategy should get the lion's share of the budget. In larger organizations, when sales aren't reflecting money spent, the team responsible for meeting the quota get nervous. When this happens, people stop moving and shaking. A quick story. A favorite Henry Cloud story concerns the founder of a dog food company who was in utter denial about the declining sales of his dog food. And so the founder cracked the whip, whoosh, spending money all throughout the company and its numerous departments, ordering state-of-the-art production equipment, hiring top scientists to improve the dog formula, engaging strategic partnerships with industry icons, and on and on. He could be heard ordering his graphics department to put more color on the dog food cans, ordering his sales department to redouble their efforts to get more product on supermarket shelves, and ordering his advertising department to triple the number of billboards coast to coast. Well, after 6 months of all this effort, dog food sales were worse than ever. Furious, the founder called together his team. And if they had been smart, they would have put the problem through the tool you're about to learn. In a company like that, there probably isn't room for silo thinking because all the thinking comes from the top. How about in your organization? Does silo thinking block big picture thinking? Vision and big picture thinking is so often obstructed by silo thinking, it's almost a proverb. We all have our favorite cliches for describing it. Not being able to see the forest for the trees. They've got blinders on. They only care about themselves. It's not my job. And the sidestep, smug quip, that's above my pay grade. Or the classic cliche, that's not my department. Also summed up gloriously with these quotes that presuppose silo thinking the following authors have obviously seen one too many times. They've written bestsellers exemplifying leaders who overcame the challenges thereof. John Maxwell said, if you think you are the entire picture, you will never see the big picture. John Blanchard said, the greatest leaders mobilize others by coalescing people around shared vision. Surprisingly, I wasn't able to find a good Far Side cartoon with opposing castles in the front office, or even a Dilbert cartoon to illustrate silo thinking, with Dilbert classically ambivalent to the chaos that is just about to ensue. You can chuckle just thinking about it, but it's not funny. I say tomato, you say tomato, combined with the childhood telephone game gone horribly wrong, and this could get interesting. Consider that an organization that has, say, 10 employees or whatever number, each team member likely grew up in a different community, went to a different college, had different professors, maybe even studied vastly different majors, and learned to operationalize their department or their education at a previous employer under different leaders with different descriptions and depictions of business functions. And that's even in the same industry oftentimes. Not to mention the thousands of books filled with proprietary systems and the jargon to keep it proprietary. No wonder miscommunication runs rampant. I'm sure all of you can think of situations you've been a part of that had everyone going in a different direction. Silos and turf wars themselves have been known to reduce creativity, but certainly job security is a major concern for today's organizations. A sense of job security in the workplace, long before the pandemic, has always had a significant influence on employee creativity. However, creativity requires the full utilization of mental abilities to create a new concept or idea or solution. Truly, a blank page is an intimidating place to start for most people. Most people don't see themselves as creative, and even fewer have had the creative freedom to create a business around their dreams as entrepreneurs have to. If you're the entrepreneur in your organization, creativity is part and parcel to how you move through the world. You probably don't even think about it. And you may not even think of yourself as creative, oddly enough. Not surprisingly, for most employees, fear is the #1 barrier to creativity and innovation. Fear of failure, fear of ridicule, fear of decision-making, fear of making mistakes, fear of taking risks, fear of not being promoted, fear of change, fear of senior leadership, and fear of the unknown. Virtually everyone can relate to the fear of getting up in front of the class. I thought this was a myth, but studies do show public speaking is more terrifying than death. Not only fear, but anxiety. In general, people with high creativity anxiety were less likely to report significant real-world creative achievements, says Richard Dacre. He found that creativity anxiety predicts both how many unique ideas people come up with and how original those ideas are. The problem becomes when fear takes over, it becomes the biggest obstacle to creativity and can stunt a person's and a company's growth. Ironically, a source I found noted that creativity itself, counterintuitively, is a positive way to break down a perfectionist mindset, tackle fear, lean into discomfort, and take risks. It's up to the company, though, to determine the level of risk it will allow and to communicate that to their staff. I think I can help businesses reduce the level of risk. Let's move on to problems that are less depressing, shall we? Assumptions and hypotheses are not the same. Assumptions need to be challenged and clarified with research because, by definition, they are a statement taken for granted. Assumptions are vague, optimistic, and untestable. The vaguer they are, the harder they are to disprove. When you have a list of assumptions, you need to prioritize them. You do that by checking the impact the assumption has on your business when it's not true. By the way, the most dangerous kind of assumption is the one we don't know we have. In Rumsfeldian, that's an unknown unknown. By contrast, hypotheses are a tentative assumption made in order to draw out and test its logical or empirical consequences, and should be tested with an experiment. Hypotheses are a type of assumption, a very specific testable assumption. Don't take it for granted. You must test it. Here's an example. I can assume my dog adores me. Why wouldn't it? But I can't really test this assumption, right? I can test a hypothesis that it will lick me on the face if I bend over and try to kiss it. See the difference? Yes, that's my dog lick joke. Okay. The next challenge with planning like an entrepreneur and getting your team on the same page is running scenarios. Partly because of the assumptions and hypotheses I just mentioned, but also because running wide-reaching scenarios that affect multiple departments create quantum leaps of complexity when all previous challenges outlined come into play. Then having to keep the variables straight. So now team members are already struggling to keep up with how things are currently working in their departments. And now not only do they have to think out of the box, but they have to do the math on other departments as well. Just like in sales, confused minds don't make decisions. No decisions, no progress, no growth. This slide obviously has more to do with getting your team on the same page than actual planning. Confused minds not making decisions bleeds into other areas of team dynamics. Anyone with sales or leadership experience knows that having answers is more motivating than not having answers. Well-meaning members wanting to step up and put forth suggestions can be discouraged when they can't get solid answers to hypotheticals. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? You've heard these things. What's needed is a system they can run their own scenarios with and can map out either exactly why something is not possible or what impact needs to be tested prior to answering these questions. Either way, they have an answer they can move forward with instead of what they see as pure obstinance or discounting from higher ups. But what if you could solve all those problems with one simple, universal business tool, or put a large damper on them at least? The business model canvas is a strategic management template used for developing new business models and documenting existing businesses, and was initially proposed in 2005 by Alexander Osterwalder, which became a worldwide business phenomenon with his book, Business Model Generation. A business coach recommended it to me when it hit the bookstores in 2008 or so. I read it, but having two businesses at the time, I didn't see value in developing new business models, nor documenting my existing businesses. I had tunnel vision. Are we there yet? Introducing the business model canvas. As you can see, it's laid out visually to reduce complexity and to literally connect common departments and functions of any organization. Well, you can't see that level of detail yet, but we'll focus in here in a moment. There are 9 sections, 9 functions, 9 departments. Just to be clear, every business and organization that is in business operates through these 9 business model canvas sections, whether they realize it or not, whether they even think of their organization that way, and whether or not they organize their thinking, strategy, and decision-making with the different components of a business model. For the startup venture founder, this is very relieving because it means there is a partial roadmap or checklist of functions to imagine developing for their venture if they ever hope to mature as a fully functioning business. By far, the number one enemy of starting a business is nebulous fear, fear of the unknown. For the small business and the small but empowered departments in larger corporations, this tool can become the vortex that all planning can intersect with because of the fact that every business already has these 9 sections. One of the reasons that this tool has almost single-handedly revolutionized how almost every startup program and business school teaches business is because of the simple and universal nature of these 9 boxes. And the other reason for its popularity is due to the creator of the canvas having the foresight to leverage the power of Creative Commons licensing that allows you, me, and everyone else to use it without worrying about traditional copyright restrictions. So feel free to distribute and use it inside your organization and outside with partners. So how to use the business model canvas for planning like an entrepreneur and getting your team on the same page. I'll start with how I started using it. As I mentioned a moment ago, a business coach had recommended I read the book. I read it, but having two businesses at the time, I didn't see value in learning about developing new business models nor documenting my existing businesses. Well, by 2014 or so, I had 4 organizations. Fortunately, another business coach, Eric Wagner, a Forbes.com contributing writer, required I revisit the book and actually map out my business models, plural. That's a conversation for another day, but I quickly realized why progress was stalled in all 4. Imagine 4 of these on your walls. This canvas on the slide was printed 36 by 48 inches on a blueprint machine. Each one of those Post-its requires attention. Again, times 4. That's a lot of things to pay attention to. It gives Adderall a run for its money. So I began teaching my clients and workshop participants the importance of mapping their ideas and businesses visually. It's easy to hide things in your head, unless you have a very small head. Also, during this timeline, I had been sketching business model canvases of sales prospects and customers' businesses in various sales roles to help understand their businesses so I could serve them better and add value to their business path, regardless of whether they ever did business with me. And they appreciated it. The simplicity of the sketch shows that it's easy and convenient. You too can learn to think and communicate in business model canvas. So you're probably chomping at the bit to learn what exactly is in these 9 sections that's so transformational. I'm going to quickly go through the 9 sections so you have a high-level overview. Mind you, the magic isn't in knowing the labels of the sections. The magic is in the fact that they're all on one sheet of paper. The overall user-friendliness, the universal nature of it, that can accommodate virtually all business models and planning strategies, and most importantly, the challenges that can be overcome that we touched on at the beginning of this presentation. So here we go. First, we have customer segments, also known as target persona, or more broadly, the marketplace or market segment. Notice how the section has a couple questions to help you understand what goes here from the research, testing, and experience your company has documented. Notice also a handful of broad categories to further assist in defining your company's business model characteristics. Again, in the interest of time, we won't dive deep on the individual slides. We'll do that in the future, but rest assured there's no shortage of this exact resource on the internet. The widely used words themselves are a great way to get on the same page by using the same language. I think the helpful folks from the SBA are offering this. The helpful folks from the SBA are offering to email this presentation to you when requested, so be sure and reach out. Okay, next, value propositions, the foundation of unique selling propositions. Revenue streams. In what form or method is the money coming into your organization? Here you see quite a few categories. This is the secret to out-of-the-box thinking, pun intended. Channels, also known as distribution channels, sales funnels, customer journey, etc. Only 5 phases, but like the board game Othello, a minute to learn, a lifetime to master. That's because this section is probably the most unstable section. Customer relationships. How do you interact with your customers? Or rather, how do they want you to interact with them? Cost structure. This section is probably the most unstable section. I said that already, didn't I? My, how things change so quickly. Key resources. Key activities. We made quick work of that. That's 9, folks. As you can see, the canvas encompasses every necessary function broadly, allowing for the specifics of your organization. Back to the whole canvas. Let's say we're selling health food products as a drop shipper. And let's say we want to start wholesaling them because we think we can lower costs by buying in bulk and pass those savings on to our customers as a cost reduction value proposition. Can you see how easy it would be to explore how the other sections may be impacted just by going through each and asking, what are the assumptions? One is that our customers would buy because of a cost reduction value proposition. You can see another obvious question that the Canvas prompts is, would key resources like physical resources be impacted? You probably would have to increase warehousing space. Of course, that would increase dependency on a category in the key resources section, that being financial resources. The sections prompt the questions: avoiding, ignoring complete functions, and preempting most would-be surprises. You can imagine how easy it would be for just about any employee to write a task on a Post-it and place it on this canvas. No blindfold, no donkey required. That's my pin the tail on the donkey joke. With a little guidance and practice, employees can see how their ideas and suggestions fit on the canvas. Soon, they'll be running scenarios just for fun. Validating business hypotheses happens naturally when your plan meets a prospect. Mike Tyson famously said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. I don't know about all that, but I do know losing a sale feels like getting punched in the gut. And that's what this is all about. Only your customer would validate your hypotheses at the end of the day. If they don't, go back to the canvas and try something different. This is what entrepreneurs do. Build, measure, learn. Investable with an I refers to an asset into which an investment can be made, like a business. Investable with an A refers to an asset that can be used to make an investment, like money. The bottom line is, when your business model is validated by customers buying from you, you being able to deliver, and it all making sense, your business model will then be investable by you and your team with efforts and money. Your team will be far, far more likely to invest in your business model when they understand how everything is interconnected. The categories on the business model canvas create an environment where your team can fall back on the categories and logical choices that the canvas poses. It reduces fear and anxiety by providing an avenue to explain their reason for choosing a particular option. Namely, the reason is the choices came from you approving the use of the canvas and the canvas laying out options. There's even a study that backs this up, but we all remember how much success seemed more attainable when given a multiple choice test, as opposed to starting with a blank page. Give your team choices, and they're more likely to choose one. The business model canvas can accommodate just about any school of thought because you can fit every industry jargon, every department jargon, and every other jargon is just a Google search away. And again, every business has the 9 sections contained on the business model canvas. Hopefully by now, you've bought into the notion that silo thinking, if still possible after applying all this, is at least linked logically, simply, and visually on one tightly packed canvas, thereby opening relationships between silos. So back to the story of the founder of the dog food company who brought his team together to get to the bottom of slumping sales. After the debate about the reasons for the sales slump had raged for hours, the CEO asked if anyone else had any theories that might explain the failure of the product. Finally, one newly hired customer service employee raised her hand and was recognized. "Do you have a solution for our dog food dilemma?" he barked. That's my dog bark joke, by the way. I think so, she said. Well, what is it? Demanded the founder. Sir, the dogs don't like it. What do you mean they don't like it? To which she explained, the customers are saying their dogs won't eat it. That was it. If the dogs don't like the food, it didn't matter the quality of the food. It doesn't matter the sophistication of the production, nor the savviness of advertisement. The sales would still not amount to much. Now, had they had the business model canvas, hello, starting with the customer segment is where they could have discovered an edible product and a dog owner willing to buy it. Before we get to questions, a short announcement. During the next presentation, I will be arming you with enough information to be dangerous. We'll be mapping your business model. If you like this presentation as the tip of the iceberg, you'll love the next installment where I'm going to teach a more usable amount of information for each section and enough to write your first draft with assumptions and hypotheses even. It'll be very similar to how you would introduce these concepts to your project or your team. I look forward to seeing you back here.
Jade, thank you so very much. I love the passion and I do love your bad jokes. It's great. We do have a question in the chat. One of them is, can the business model canvas be used for a nonprofit organization?
100% yes. As a matter of fact, I was just in one of my masterminds helping a nonprofit realize the challenge that they were having with their nonprofit. For most nonprofit organizations, they have two business model canvases. One is for beneficiaries, those who receive the benefits of the nonprofit, and one for the donors and funders of the nonprofit. I'm sure you realize that both marketing campaigns to each group need to be different. And a lot of times the functions and the teams and the departments also function very differently, and this complicates things. The business model canvas can help you separate those two things, get a clearer vision on your nonprofit, and understand your customer segments better, how to reach them, how to serve them better, and grow your nonprofit organization much, much faster.
Jade, is the business model canvas good for a one-person shop that they're just starting out thinking, I've got a great idea. Where should I go? Is this a good thing, a good tool to use?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. That's how I started. That's how the vast majority of the people that I've taught this to, the hundreds of people that I've taught this to since 2014 have used it. But lots of small teams, small startup teams, small businesses, up to 100 employees can benefit from this. The small meetings that you have. And then also, this is a worldwide phenomenon. Worldwide multinational corporations are using this as well. It's truly a universal tool.
It just so happens that we were in a meeting yesterday at the Evelyn K. Davis Center in Des Moines, and the gentlemen had it up on the wall, and they're like, this is what we got to do, and you need to have a lot of Post-it notes. I think that the use of it will help you, especially when it comes to the SBA, and if you're going to go for possibly an SBA loan with your local lender, you're going to need to have a business plan. So, like you said, it's a blank piece of paper is so daunting that I'm going to assume this model helps you put together your business plan.
100%. This is a fantastic way to develop your business plan for banks, for funders, for partners, for your team to understand what's going on. It's a great way because it helps you validate everything that will be going on the business plan instead of having assumptions and hypotheses on the business plan. They'll actually be validated.
Okay, if anyone wants to come off camera or on camera, I guess, and off mute, just please feel free to do so and ask any kind of questions. We'd love to have you put in the chat what your business is, how long you've been at it. If you wouldn't mind, I might call on a couple people. Lisa, I think she's typing right now. But anybody that wants to come off of mute, please feel free to do so and ask Jade any questions. Like he said, we'll do a deeper dive into the segments in the future, and we'll be figuring out what time works best for people, what date. So be ready for that. But is there anyone that's got a question? And I know Lisa is typing. Lisa, you are on mute. Jade has a wonderful little sign that tells you you're on mute.
Yeah, she may be having.
I think she might still be having problems. She's freezing up a little bit.
Welcome
Maybe
to our world, right?
Exactly. Maybe I can get her off mute. There, she should be. No. Lisa, we still can't hear you. I'm so sorry. And it looks like you should be able to. I can hit mute participant and then I'll try to unmute you. I'm sorry. Now I think I have you muted and I don't know how to get you off there. So Samantha, if you can try, or we can just. Oh, she goes, I was going to share, but please continue. If you'd like to put any question in the chat, that's great. If not, we will continue this on with future presentations. Thank you so much, Jade, for the wonderful information. Thank you to my other staff members that are here. Lisa's typing again, so I want to give her a chance to get some information out. And then we'll let you get on with your day. She says she's an alternative lender since 2016. And a business plan is always great when we bring clients to those lenders. So yes, as we stated, you are going to need a business plan, but it doesn't need to be a 100-page business plan anymore, correct? I mean, you just need to. And if you want to monitor the chat, Lisa's talking in the chat. I wish we could get her unmuted. Oh, she says even yes, 2 pages at the most. So having the meat of your information and what, Jay, can you help me that when Versi was talking yesterday, profit and loss assumptions too. As she put it, lenders don't have time for 100 pages. So Jay, what will you, I mean, I know you've taught a lot of people how to use this and how to put together business plans too. And what have you seen?
Yeah, well, the business model canvas is just such a less daunting way of getting to that point. The business plan is important either way, but it's a lot of times just the business plan is daunting. And so if you start with the business model canvas, it's just a more usable roadmap to get to a business, but also a more usable roadmap to develop your business plan. It just breaks it down better. It's more simplified. It has more questions. It has more categories. It just walks you through it more step-by-step, I guess you could say. There's a lot of wonderful resources out there, and this is just another one of them.
And I want to share with everybody that the SBA funds a number of our resource partners that do counseling and advising for free. So we have the small business development centers that are located throughout Iowa. There are 15 different centers, and if you would want to email me, I can help you get in touch with the closest center nearest you. We also have SCORE, and there is one of our SCORE representatives on the line. If Don, would you mind getting off, taking yourself off mute, coming on camera and just giving us a little information about SCORE? These are individuals that are either still in the working world or who have retired that offer up their time to do free counseling and advising. We also have the Women's Business Center. The Women's Business Center is located in Des Moines, but they service the whole state of Iowa. We have a Veterans Business Outreach Center that's located in St. Louis, but they service our 4-state region. And then we also do exporting and our SBA lending. So Don, hi, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great this morning. Yes, thanks for the opportunity to spread the word a little bit. Jane should be happy. She always likes it when we can promote SCORE. SCORE provides free mentoring for small businesses. Somebody that has a small business and wants to recharge it, or somebody that has a dream and is trying to figure out how to turn it into a small business. We can ask questions. We won't write their business plan for them. We will tell them that they need a business plan. I've listened to Jade give this presentation various times. I still have copies of the big sheets that he used to hand out at the luncheon meetings. Just ran across those the other day. And during this session, I just downloaded the sheet thinking that I'll start sharing that with clients when we're having the initial conversation, just as another tool for them to use.
Thank you so much, Don. And if you want to put your SCORE email address into the chat too.
Okay.
We're taping this segment. So we are going to tweet out the link. So there could be future individuals that would see this and hopefully have value from it. And then, like I said, we're going to continue on with the series and delve deeper into it. So Harry, he said that he is the president of a company that provides IT services, and they've been in business for over 16 years and has won more than 175 government contracts. Donnell Connolly, yes, is our government contract person in the Iowa district office. So Donnell, are you still on? And would you mind coming off camera and just saying a few words about government contracting? Because I know we've been doing some webinars about that, and we will do that more in the future too.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good morning, I'm Donnell Conley, and I just have to start out and say that Harry is one of our successful 8A contractors located in, I believe, Bettendorf area. And Harry has been in the program over 5 years and is doing a very great job. And with that said, with the SBA, we work in 3 core areas: capital counseling and contracting. And Joe just really brought out the counseling today. And in the area of government contracting, just remember that the government is the largest purchaser in the world. So there is always opportunity. They buy anything from paper clips to airplanes. And so through the SBA on our website at www.sba.gov, and you click on federal contracting, you will see a list of our certification programs. However, before you apply for any of our programs, you'll need to be registered to do business with the federal government. And if you have any questions on how to register with the federal government, please give me a call or send me an email, and I can direct you how to get properly set up to do business with the federal government.
Thank you so much, Donnell. There's so many facets to the SBA, to the resource partners that we have, to the services that we have and programs and lending programs. And we just want you to know there's help out there. It has been paid for by your tax dollars, so please utilize it. And thank you so much for, Harry says thank you for your help, Donnell. You have been fabulous as always. Don put his contact information into the chat. And then Don also said, thanks, Jade. Great to have a refresher. So we are going to end this if nobody else has any questions. Donnell's got her information in the chat. I had put my information in there earlier. Please join us for our next segment when we delve deeper into the business model canvas. Thank you so much, Jade, for the presentation. I love your passion. And it's the next one will be more of even a fireside chat. So join us, keep informed, and we will get the information out to you soon. So we're going to end the webinar. And Donnell is typing something, so I'm going to leave it on for just a moment, but we're going to sign off here in just a few minutes.
Thanks,
Lisa.
Jade.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jane, please, if you want to get on and tell us about what else is all going on that I might have forgotten. Jane is doing a tremendous job with our Community Navigator program, which I didn't even touch on. So would you like to talk about that?
It's just getting launched, but the Community Navigator program is a $100 million grant program that SBA put out to competitions already closed, but we have it's a hub and spoke economic development model, and one of the program that's affiliated with Iowa is the International Rescue Committee that works with refugees and immigrant communities and underserved markets. And so one of their primary spokes is the Lutheran Services of Iowa. And so they are working through 4 other organizations, Iowa's West Coast Initiative, the Entrepreneurship Center at Drake, the Immigrant Entrepreneurship Summit, and the Center for Economic Success, which is also the host of our Women's Business Center. And they are just starting to roll out the program, but there will be a lot of training and resources or programming to connect underserved markets more directly to small business resources. So just kind of anticipate that all of this is coming in the next year or two. There's just going to be the focus will be building that ecosystem to better support business communities that kind of were didn't really have access to a lot of the resources for different reasons during the pandemic, and just trying to help them get more connected and to build those key partnerships so they could be successful as well. So that's one aspect of some things that we're working on. And also just want to mention, we have a lot of workshops that we are working on too. We have some things coming up on franchising. We're going to be doing some export training for not only our banks, but for the small business community as well, and just really connecting on a lot of our different programs.
Thank you so much, Jade, and thank you for leading the charge. We really appreciate it. So I am going to end this webinar, but we will get it out. And thank you again, Jade, for all your information, and to all of you for questions and for adding things to this. So this ends our presentation for today, but we will see you soon and in the future. Thank you.
Joe, thank you for organizing this.
Thank you very
thing.
much.